Good evening, everybody. My name is Sam Harrell. I'm a Public Information Officer with the Alaska Incident Management Team. Welcome to the public meeting for the Monument Fire. We'll get underway here. A few things that I need to note before we get started. We were not able to get an American Sign Language interpreter this evening. Most unfortunate for that. We will have these captioned for later viewing. The automatic captioning on some of these platforms is not very good, but we will go back in and edit the captioning for that. We'll have our subject matter experts present this evening. We'll let all of the presentations complete, and then we'll be following along to capture your questions off of the social media platforms. We kind of got a limited window tonight between other meetings and other places that these people need to be for this evening. So when we get up to the top of the next hour, we're going to have to be cutting it off. So let's get underway here. So tonight we'll be hearing from the Deputy Forest Supervisor of the Shasta Trinity National Forest, Kari Otto, Alaska Incident Management Team Incident Commander Norm McDonald. Since we're also working on this fire together with our State of Alaska firefighters, CAL FIRE, particularly the CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5. Their incident commander, Mike Parks, will be with us tonight. We'll get a weather update from the incident meteorologist, Ryan Woburn. We'll get an update on smoke conditions from Ali Kamal. We'll hear from our fire behavior analyst, Brad Washaw. We'll get an operational update from the Alaska Incident Management Team Operations Chief Karen Scholl, in addition to our colleague Jimmy Hudson with the CAL FIRE IMT 5. He's their operations chief. We'll also have some closing comments from Tara Jones, District Ranger with the Shasta Trinity National Forest. So we'll get it underway here, and I'll turn this over to Kari, and she can kick us off. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, and thank you for sharing your time with us today. I know that your time is incredibly valuable, especially with all of these changing times. I just wanted to take a quick minute to talk about a couple of things. The first is the wind. No surprise there. So those of you who are here in Redding, watched the trees bend over sideways as the wind blew one way and another. The wind in the canyon, it is whipping hard. But the other thing that we know is the wind at the higher levels. So as the wind streams go higher, it tends to pick up those sparks and move them pretty far distances. We've had spotting up to 1.5 miles on this fire. So would just ask everybody's vigilance as you are out and about to keep an eye on that and maintain your situational awareness. It's really, really important as this fire continues to move. The other thing I wanted to talk about is three things: cooperation, collaboration, and teamwork. And so many of you may have noticed CAL FIRE is joining us here in the room today, and we are so incredibly grateful. We have moved into unified command with CAL FIRE as of this morning. That is for everybody's benefit and for the benefit of our communities. So I would ask everybody's patience as we work through the system. I would ask everybody's cooperation as our firefighters are working in and around the communities and the perimeter to safeguard everybody's property, everybody's life. And I would ask for teamwork. So as the county sheriff is issuing evacuation warnings and orders and trying to move people to safety, please help them, help us, help you. And on that note, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and thank you again so much for joining us.
All right, thank you, Kari. All right, Norm, Incident Commander Norm McDonald.
All righty, thanks, Sam. All right, Norm McDonald, Incident Commander with the Alaska team. Glad to be here. We showed up about 3 days ago. We spent the last 48 hours doing a shadow with California Team 5. We're picking up the good work they've done. A lot of good effort is put into this. We know where the challenges are, so we had a really good transition with that team. Yesterday, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we had another in briefing, and CAL FIRE Team 5 arrived. So this morning at 7 o'clock, we are in what's considered a unified command, or as we zone this fire out. We have a north zone with the Alaska team. So we have operational control of this north zone. And CAL FIRE Team 5 has a south zone. So with that, that's a major transition for this fire and for the public. So a couple of things I just want to point out while we have a chance here. Operationally, we are split out, but when we do our public meetings and our cooperator meetings and we're messaging, we're doing that as a united team. So it's one fire, two teams, but the messaging will come from the both of us. So we're making sure whether you're north or south, we understand the operations we're doing on either side affect you and your communities. So we'll make every effort to get that information out to you with the United Front, so you can hear from both organizations. We're doing that at these public meetings and then with our cooperators as well. So a real important part for us is that communicating, making sure you're getting the messages and the information you need to make good decisions for yourself and your families. And we'll do that as a united group here in just settings like this. There'll be times where the Alaska team will take point on it and coordinate that meeting. There'll be times where Cal 5 will take point on that and coordinate the meeting, but there'll be representatives for each one of those to get you the information that you're looking for. So with that, that's the communication piece. That's a real important part to us. It's important to all the agencies here. So we'll make sure we maintain that. We had folks out today up in Hyambaum and getting our PIOs out on the streets, out in those communities. We're going to continue that effort. We're doing that a couple of different ways, which Sam will hit on, through Facebook, through a lot of the social media outlets. But also we understand it's real important we get our folks out in those communities for that face-to-face contact. So look for folks in blue shirts with the Alaska flag. They'll be there to provide that if you're in the north part of the fire, north zone of the fire. And we'll make sure that's going to be a big emphasis of us, making a presence out there and being approachable. If you're not getting that, call Sam and his group. We'll make sure we get people out to you to get the information you need. I think the second part of that I want to hit on is just with this unified command and the zoned approach. As you know, California is, you got a lot of fires out there. We're surrounded north, each direction we have fires, and there's a lot of resources being utilized. There's nationally in the West Coast, there's a shortage of resources. So what this does is what we have for our firefighters, our resources, our engines, aviation, we have what we have. That's CAL FIRE, that's us. So one of the things we're doing, we're two separate teams, but our priorities are in alignment. So if the need for those resources is on the south side to protect the community, like today when we're in just north of Hayfork, we'll get those resources funneled down that way. That'll be the priority shift. That'll be where that work is being done. We'll work with CAL FIRE to get them what they need to support their effort on the day like today. And in return, when we have a day like they had down in Hayfork on the north side of a fire, we'll be able to shovel those or move those resources up and work under the Alaska team, protecting those communities on the north zone. So what that takes on our part is a lot of close coordination, communication, teamwork. I've worked with Mike and his team before. We've got a good plan in place for that. So both communicating publicly and the sharing of resources, that's been our mission here the last 24 hours to figure out how we're going to do that, make that effective and a real smooth operation. So we're off to a real good start today, and that battle we had in front of Hayfork was a good example of how we can share those resources and have some success out there. So I think I'll close out with that, be available for questions as needed, and look forward to continuing this process as we move through. Thanks, Sam.
All right, thank you. All right, Mike, you're up.
Good evening. My name is Mike Parks. I'm the incident commander for CAL FIRE IMT5, Incident Management Team 5. Not much to say after Norm's presentation on how we're working together on this fire, so could have said it better myself. Just for the public's understanding of how this works, is what we've done is basically drawn a line in the sand, and it's with the fire being as large as it is, and as it started to encroach out on the state responsibility area, that line is reflective of that the progression of the fire. So basically out to the south on Hind Palm Road, and it moves to the northeast to an unnamed drainage. Anything on the fire to the southeast of that line is now the responsibility of CAL FIRE. As Norm said, we will share resources as needed. We'll make sure that we are working together cooperatively and collaboratively. But if you have any issues or concerns or questions On the operation to the southeast of that line, that will be CAL FIRE's job to answer those questions. So when you see the media lines, when you see the press releases, when you see the patch on the street, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, our liaison officers or our PIOs would be the ones to talk to for, again, the southeast portion, and then the Norm's team for anything to the northwest portion of the fire. So that's a simplistic approach of how we've got it going. Again, from the command side, we're working together. Operationally, we just have the fire split into two. So that's how it's put together. Our operations guys will explain a little bit later on the details of what is actually happening on the line today. So thank you for your time, and we appreciate all the public support and communication to this point. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Incident meteorologist. All right, Ryan.
All right, good evening. Ryan Woburn, incident meteorologist. I'm out of the Monterey, California office. So first and foremost, we have that red flag warning through 8 p.m. this evening, so that's going to be ending here in about an hour or so. And that's specifically for what we call California Zone 283, which comes out of the Eureka office. If you're poking around on the internet, you'll see some other red flag warnings are continuing across the state. So I think a little piece of good news is the red flag warning here will be ending for the Monument fire at least. Looking ahead to tomorrow, what we think is going to happen is the River Complex fire just to our north up in the Trinity Alps there. That's going to push its smoke over us once again tomorrow, and that's going to kind of control the fire environment. What that means is those northeast winds are going to continue to push in this direction, keep that smoke plume over us and kind of stabilize things. What's important to note is the winds aloft continue from that direction, which is of course kind of pushing what we call adverse to the line, and of course even down here towards the communities of Hayfork and whatnot. So that's the biggest kind of watch out that we have tomorrow, but we don't expect the conditions to be as critical as they were today when we did have that red flag warning. I do want to mention then is as we get into tomorrow afternoon, especially on the west side of the fire, we'll get a little bit of a westerly push. Expect right now Friday things to kind of be a little bit of a transition day, quieter, and then as we get into Saturday, that's our next chance of a little bit of a weather change with another dry cold front and a westerly wind push. So in a nutshell, I think conditions actually tomorrow will be pretty similar to what we saw today. I know a lot of you here in the valley felt the winds and whatnot. Don't think they'll be quite as strong down at the surface. And then, in summation, obviously we continue in this long-term drought, and as we push through the end of August here, we don't see any real obvious change in the weather. There's no chance of precipitation out there, through the end of the month. Thank you.
All right, Ryan, thank you very much. And with that smoke approaching us, here we go, Ali, with our air quality advisor here.
I appreciate that, Sam. Ali Kamel, Air Resource Advisor here on the Shasta Tree National Forest. Ryan gave a great description of what we're seeing on the smoke over the fire. I'm here to just provide a little bit of information on what happens in the smoke in the communities. I know there's a lot of interest in fire, so I'll be brief. So yesterday we did see that northeast wind, and it did scour out a lot of the smoke in the North Sacramento Valley and a lot of other communities too that we're seeing hazardous air quality. It's short-lived though, because again, as Ryan mentioned, that smoke came from the north fires to the north, the River Complex, and also the Antelope, and we're also having some additional new starts too that are impacting the area. So we're, for most of Northern California right now, we are seeing moderate to unhealthy air quality. There are some pockets that are very unhealthy right now. We expect the same kind of trend tomorrow as well, and then in overnight hours too, we start to see some drift of the smoke from the Dixie Fire creep over to the Sacramento Valley, and from the north as well. It just goes down into the lower elevations. So we will see usually some elevated smoke in the mornings, clearing up later in the day when the inversion breaks. I just wanted to mention too that, as Ryan mentioned, that we may see a little bit of calmness on Friday, and then Saturday things may shift. That westerly wind, as we saw from 2 or 3 nights ago, when we got that west wind, a lot of that smoke just pushed a wall of smoke into the North Sacramento Valley, and we saw, like here in Redding, air quality in the hazardous range. So if you have asthma, any respiratory problems, please be aware. Please stay informed. On NCWeb is information on the smoke outlooks, and there's also the California Smoke Blog, has great information on how to protect yourself from wildfire smoke. All right, thanks.
All right, Ali, thank you. Brad Washaw, Fire Behavior Analyst, thank you.
Brad Washer. I'm one of the ops section chiefs, along with Karen, who's going to talk to you next. And we also have an ops section chief that's out on the ground, John Glover. I'm also qualified fire behavior analyst, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. Yesterday, the Northern Ops Center issued what's called a fire behavior and fuels advisory. So they extended that from before. That's because a number of factors. One, we have the extended extreme drought that's going on here. That's a result of a low snowpack, very little precipitation this spring, and that has resulted in extreme fire danger. And that's across all of Northern California for the most part. With that, though, we're seeing other fires in the area, and it's been mentioned multiple times about the smoke from those other fires. And that smoke is affecting the fire behavior on this fire. And it's basically put a cap on the fire behavior that is minimizing some of the if we didn't have those other fires around us, we'd probably see a lot more growth on this fire. So that is minimizing our fire behavior. That also is impacting our operation. One, in some places, firefighters can't see that there's a possible spot out there. Also impacts as far as air operations. We may not be able to put helicopters up, and today we did get helicopters up, but at one point in time they hit a wall of smoke and had to come back. So that smoke is impacting us in many ways, not only the fire behavior, but the operation itself. Number of areas that we're looking at with interest is where we still have heat, and that's in the southern portion here, and basically areas where you don't see black on the map. There was a burnout done in here, but there's still some heat in there, and that's a concern. With tomorrow's northeasterly winds, some concerns along the New River area with some conflicting winds within that area. Same thing on the east fork of the North Fork. Concerns in this area as far as winds funneling through there. Normally during the daytime you see upslope, up canyon winds from diurnal winds. With that northerly component, that could cause some squirrely winds in those two areas. So those are some areas that we're looking at as far as concern for fire behavior. The other thing we're looking at a little bit of concern for is a couple days out. Saturday, we're looking at critical fire weather conditions. So we're going to have low relative humidities, increased winds out of a northwesterly direction, and what's the other factor? We're going to have temperatures that are approaching 90 degrees. So that's one thing we're looking at also from a fire behavior standpoint. And with that, I'll turn it back to Sam.
Thank you, Brad. All right, for an operational update, Karen Scholl from the Alaska Incident Management Team.
All right, good afternoon. So on the northern zone of the fire today, like everyone's alluded to, the fire behavior was reduced. We did still have some movement of the fire down slope up in Division Echo. We'll start up there. Still backing down the slope towards the New River. Nothing of concern. We also did a bunch of scouting in here and started moving equipment in to punch some dozer line on existing dozer lines. But essentially, just a lot of scouting around and trying to see where the fire is at. It is hung up on a road up in here, so that's good news, and it's still kind of sitting there. Minimal activity up in the northern portion of the fire, and then over in our eastern divisions along the North Fork of the Trinity. We do have a spot across the river there. We've got eyes on it. We're trying to get crews in there. It's about 50 acres. Not a lot of growth today, but it is on the western slope, so it does have room to move up the slope. It's just hard to access and we can't get equipment in there. So that's something that we're working on. We tried to get helicopters up in there today, but got pushed out with the smoke. So keeping a real close eye on that, and we've got a plan to first day that we have got clear air is paint the ridge and then see what we can do to back fire off the ridge and bring fire down, just kind of minimize that impact as it runs up to the ridge. Still concerned and working on prepping the structures on the north side of the Hobo Gulch Road up through there. This dozer line is in above Helena to the north, and we're looking at trying to get crews in here. We're trying to free up a crew that can go in and finish off our hand line at the north end of that contingency line. I'll leave this for Jim to talk about, and then down in our Zulu area, we had equipment working down in the hay press area. We did have a spot there yesterday. that was picked up. We were getting dozer line around it, and we kind of put a box around that, and that's now got fire all around it, dozer line around it, and it's looking good. We had dozer continue to push out Pattison Ridge and the Jeep Trail with the intent of bringing it down and tying in where CAL FIRE resources, we're going to meet somewhere out here and tie in our lines together. Let's see, everything else along the intertie is all looking good, and everything's sitting where it should be for now. Crews did kind of finish up the burning that they were doing. Did a little bit extra last night, but today we didn't put any additional on the ground out in the Underwood Road area. So this is pretty much complete. There is a little bit more red as it comes down the dozer line and follows the road around. But we're pretty much complete there. It's monitor and mop up where we can. So we had a pretty good day overall with just more with that cap sitting on us, just more muted fire behavior. And so that was a good thing for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Karen. Your turn, Jim. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Jim Hudson, Operations Section Chief with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5. So first and foremost, I just want to say that our priority is the protection of the communities and the properties and the residential structures that are not skirt those communities as well. Those are the communities of Junction City, long-term planning, more downstream for Weaverville, Douglas City, and obviously Hayfork, where we saw a lot of our fire activity today. So as we work around the fire, I'll give an update on what the activity was like in those areas around those communities today and the actions we're taking to help mitigate those. So we've talked a lot about the north winds that we had come in today. That's basically pushing the fire back on itself down past to the south of Junction City. What that's allowed us to do is reinforce these lines in here. We've seen very minimal growth in the Junction City area as we go from the zone break and the hairpin turn on 299 all the way south. So crews are actively working there to reinforce those lines. We do anticipate a wind reversal in the next few days, followed by another north wind event. So as we work back and forth across this fire and the winds change, we're taking opportunity to reinforce our lines where the wind favors us and being prepared for it to switch back the other direction. So that's the balancing act we're working with. But like I said, very minimal growth in Junction City today. Those lines are being reinforced and will continue to be reinforced throughout the night, as well as plumbed with hose that we can start to extinguish the firework interior. In relationship to Weaverville, we're working closely with the North Zone or the Alaska team, understanding what's going on in the wilderness area above us, and we'll continue to coordinate and look for that spot fire, as well as on the western side moving towards, we're looking for opportunities for contingency line for dozer to work in. There are some dozer lines that have been placed in already. Specifically for Douglas City, we are adamantly trying our objectives is keep the fire west of 3 and in the intersection there. So we've been doing a combination of direct attack and indirect attack. With direct attack, we are working and extinguishing as we go right along the fire edge and building control line, as well as inserting dozers on roads, ridges that are favorable to us, and we'll continue to do so tomorrow in conjunction with SPI as well. So we're basically going parallel to 3 and bringing it back down into Haywork for our lines, and we've had some successes today. But there has been some growth on the southeast side of the fire that we had some spots that established, but we have crews going direct on them right now. It has not reached Highway 3. Specifically to Hayfork, this is where a lot of our activity was today. There were some questions this morning. I know that whether the fire had actually got into Hayfork proper or not. There were some spots that got in there last night that remained very small that crews worked on. So crews are working very aggressively right now to ring any of these fire edges and get line around them or go indirect and be able to utilize those as barriers. There's no reported structure loss in Hayfork right now, and we will be looking to shore those up, keep it north of Hayfork, and prepare for that wind reversal like we saw in Junction City to be able to go and extinguish the bottom piece as well.
All right, thank you, Jim. Here you are. I was looking on the wrong side of the room for you.
That's all right.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tara Jones. I am the District Ranger in Weaverville for the Trinity River Management Unit. So right now I just want to talk to the folks out there in Hayfork and Weaverville, and that's not my phone, just saying. There you go. Hey, I know, with all the fire activity, especially at night and with these winds, you're spending a lot of sleepless nights. I'm thrilled actually that we have CAL FIRE here with us now to partner with us and to have unified command so that we can have even more folks out there, prioritizing your safety, your homes, your properties. So I wanted to start off with that. And secondly, I want to talk about common goals. Everyone that's been up here today, everyone that's out there on the lines has the same common goals. We want to protect you and your property. We want to make sure you have a home to go home to. And we want to do everything we can to get you back into your home as soon as we can. We want to get the fire contained. We're all on the same page there, all working for you. Most of the people that you run into are public servants, and they've chosen this life to serve you and to be here for you in these types of moments. So I wanted to remind you of those common goals that we have. Third, I want to talk about unified command. I think that they put me up here because I can honestly say I live every day of my life in unified command. I'm married to a CAL FIRE captain. So along those lines, thank you, welcome up to the forefront with CAL FIRE. They have been working, make no mistake, they've been working long and hard around Junction City and Douglas City, and exactly like they had said, working with SPI and with some others there, making sure those contingency lines were in, and now we're all up there on the front lines together. Also want to thank all the other folks that are out there working, CHP, Caltrans, the Sheriff's Department. The Trinity County Sheriff's Department is stretched from Coffee Creek to the McFarland Fire and all points in between. And all of those families, of everyone you see in this room tonight, all of those folks I mentioned and others I've probably forgotten, all those families are home watching to make sure that their firefighter, their sheriff's deputy, their CHP patrolman are all safe. So from the Shasta Trinity National Forest, welcome to CAL FIRE and to Alaska team, and thank you all so much for your service.
All right, Tara, thank you very much. A couple of other available subject matter experts. I do have Tim Saxon, the Trinity County Sheriff, available with us. And if we could go to Tim, I am getting quite a few questions on a lot of people have been evacuated for some time and trying to figure out repopulation and such as that. And if you could kind of help the public understand that a little bit, Tim, we'd appreciate that.
Certainly, and thank you very much. I appreciate every one of the presenters tonight giving an overview of the fire. Certainly, this has been going on for quite some time, as many of the big fires that we've been experiencing here in Trinity County over the last few years tend to be making a more and more of an impact on our communities. And as I issue these evacuation warnings and these evacuation orders, I do not take these decisions very lightly. It impacts hundreds of families for days, for weeks. Now we're going on 2 or 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks for some of the communities, especially in the 299 corridor. And I know it's taking a heavy toll, and I'm working daily, sometimes twice daily, with meetings with our partners here with Forest Service, and now I'll be having these meetings with our partners with CAL FIRE to do everything I can to open these areas back up and repopulate these communities, to get people back into their homes, and to get people back into to unfortunately to take a look at those structures that have been lost. And I tell you that from my heart, I really feel very sad for those individuals who have lost their properties, their homes, and whatnot, and we feel for them. But as far as repopulating it, it's not as simple as just opening a highway or just lifting a tape. It's in collaboration with many partners not only fire officials, but with environmental health, with Caltrans, with CHP, with power companies, whether it be PG&E or the PUD. It's making sure that when we do reopen an area and repopulate an area, that the infrastructure is complete. The infrastructure is able to let people go back and safely regain their homes and regain their life in those areas. We have to make sure that there's clean water available, power available, that they can safely go in and out of the area. Currently on the 299 corridor, we have an active slide downriver past Del Loma that is continually coming down, and we've had patrol cars that have been damaged by rocks. We've had a probation vehicle that's been hit by rocks. CHP has actually taken videos through that area and has posted those videos where you can see that the traffic conditions are not good. We still have active fire in those areas. Just in the Junction City alone, you've seen that we were very close to being able to get that back to a warning when the fire again took off, and a very dangerous situation where firefighter lives were impacted, and several firefighters were trapped, and several of my deputies were trapped in an area. So this fire is dangerous. It's deadly. Thank God we have not lost any lives that we know of yet, and I really want that situation to remain where we have safety. So again, I'm working as hard as I can daily to keep in contact with all of our cooperators to see that as soon as possible, as soon as it's humanly possible and safe as possible, to reopen these areas and get people back into their homes. That is my goal every day, to make sure that that can happen. So thank you, Sam. I really don't have anything else to say on that. If you have another question, I'd be happy to take it.
No, Tim, I think we're good there. I really appreciate your time this evening. And as Tim was speaking of, just when we thought things were in our favor, we had another quick shift in the weather, and we're still anticipating more of that. And just to kind of clear up a little bit of the confusion on the winds and such, Ryan, if you could help us with that a little bit, please.
Again, Ryan Woburn, incident meteorologist. So yeah, apparently a couple questions came in for some clarification on the wind. So I'll try to speak in basic terms. In this part of the state, when we use the term a north wind, that's kind of analogous with a dry critical wind direction. Again, the red flag warning is essentially expiring, at 8 o'clock tonight, so that's the good news. But again, the wind direction is what we call a northeast wind. So it's coming from up here in this direction. There's no doubt about it. It's not a good direction for the Hayfork area and that northeast. So I would say we have about 24 more hours where the general wind, that's not necessarily every nook and cranny or every division on this fire, but the general wind direction will be from the northeast pushing towards the southwest. And then there was a question about the wind reversal. In there, I was actually specifically talking out here near Burnt Ranch, up in Willow Creek and whatnot. So by tomorrow afternoon, Thursday afternoon, we'll start to get a little bit of a westerly wind push on this part of the fire, not talking about down near Hayfork. And then to try to not confuse it, but as we get into Saturday, that's kind of our next critical day that we're looking out for, and that's going to be more of a westerly wind push. Again, I don't expect it to be too strong. But in terms of fire weather, fire behavior, what we're always looking for is changes, and those are the changes that we see on the horizon. So hopefully that clears things up a little bit.
All right, Ryan, thank you very much. I hope that helps. Still a lot of questions of concern coming out of Hayfork and such, and especially with the weather that we're experiencing. Jim, if you could just address a little bit more on what the plan of action is for tonight and on in tomorrow with your engines and crews down there.
Yeah, so the plan moving forward tonight is, first and foremost, we've been dealing with spot fires. That has been the most significant challenge we've had. So we're going to have engines spaced out in here like we had last night when they had the spot fire, to be able to go after it, any spots that we have, patrol the community, and then working with heavy equipment to utilize road systems, specifically that are getting scouted now as we speak, and they have been being scouted throughout the day, really. We've had some good progress in some areas, and then we get a spot, and then we have to tie that back into the main body of the fire. So our plan is to be aggressive, go with direct line where possible, and continue to have engines spaced out from the east to west all the way across Hay Fork and be on the ready for any spot fires, while additional resources was to go to build direct or indirect line to be able to contain the fire north of it.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. And also, because of the winds that we're experiencing, there's concern in Hyampom too. And Brad Wausau, also one of our operations chiefs, if you could clue us in on what the plans are and things are happening for Hyampom, please.
Thanks. For Hyampah, we've got a number of things going for it as far as positives. Again, with that northerly flow, we're getting smoke covering that area, so we're seeing a little bit of decrease in fire behavior. We are also, our division Zulu is probably our highest staffed division, so we are putting a lot of emphasis in securing this area, knowing what we have between the fire itself and access into Hyampah. So those are a number of things that, really looking at that very carefully. And we actually have another map that highlights the road to Hyampah, just wanted to make sure that we can point that out in other locations. So I think that probably answers the question.
All right. Thank you very much, Brad. We're going to have to be wrapping this up now. My staff is going to continue to monitor the Shasta Trinity Facebook page and respond to questions that are coming in. The CAL FIRE folks will also be paying attention to their social media page and responding to questions that are coming in on those. As these will be recorded and available on these platforms. So please, if you have questions even tomorrow as you're watching these, please post them in the comments and we will come back around and answer those questions. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry that we're having to cut this short, but it is, we have night operational briefing that we need to get to, and folks need to get back to work here. So appreciate your time, and we'll be back with you in the morning with an operational briefing with both Karen and Jim to walk us around the map in the morning and fill us in on what happened overnight and what to expect through tomorrow. Thank you all very much.